Because this era of wrestling, Sarah, even with, and I'm going to just tease this to go right into the show, even with Vincent Kennedy McMahon being backstage at Raw last night, I would put this Raw in an echelon of an A minus.
And from what I understand, the show got 200,000 more viewers than last week.
But Vince
So,
was there, Sarah.
but see, and that's well. Let's just get into it then.
Vince was there. Hear us out. Vince was in Hartford for this
Well,
show.
I mean, he lives in Stamford,
And there we
so
go. There's our first clue of
yeah,
why
that
it's
was
not that big.
basically why he was there. Because I mean, I think that he's still potentially communicating with Triple H and creative team or whatever via
Yeah.
phone, via internet, email, whatever they do. But I haven't seen a whole lot yet about how much he changed the show. From what I did see, someone said that it was just like I think you were talking in that tweet where they said he rearranged things. I don't know um how much truth there is to that. I don't know how much truth there is to potentially, s- squashing matches or what. But yeah, it didn't. And it's funny because there were people who were talking about it last night, and of course, usually when you hear that, at least in the past year or so, when Vince is going to be at the show, you assume it's going to be bad. And so,
Yeah.
because the show wasn't bad, at least universally, people agreed that it wasn't bad. So many people were like, that wasn't a Vince show. That wasn't a Vince show. And I understand that argument because to an extent, because in recent memory, his shows have been horrible. I mean, all we have to do is look at the Raw after Mania and be like, okay, that was a Vince show. And you knew it was. But we also have to remember how long Vince was running wrestling. And there were not weeks on weeks on weeks where every show was bad. There were times where
Yeah.
there were shows that were excellent. So the idea that it couldn't possibly have had any involvement of Vince is a little crazy to me.
So my little 2 cents here with that, because you're 1,000% right with what you're saying. My, I say, vision of this is that Vince is not there to run the show. Vince is there to run the business, and for a long time he had to do both. Now with Triple H, Papa Paul, whatever you want to call him coming into the head of creative role, and most importantly, it's someone that Vince trusts, kind of
Mm.
because he has to, because he's kind of blood. So he kind of gets his wish, kind of doesn't, whatever. But who better to steer the ship than, Paul Levesque? Seriously.
Yeah.
So with that trust and that safety that he has in someone being able to do it, has a great rapport with the young talent that you didn't quite get, but Triple H has a vision for them. And at the end of the day, it's putting dollars in your pocket.
Mhm.
So right now, what Vince is doing is just shadowing. He's just there because, all right, put it this way, he's a retired old man, like he's got, when you dedicate something like this to your entire life, stepping away from a cold turkey is the worst thing you can do. Like
Yeah.
I've had therapists tell me with my dad thing, like it's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
Yeah.
So for him to be just around it, okay, and if he's making like structural changes, like hey, maybe you should start with this before this, and then segue into this match after this promo or backstage segment, that's just shit that Triple H doesn't know yet. He has not run creative. He needs to know that type of structure because the content's there. I mean, the women were highlighted well last night, which we'll get into with the Money in the Bank qualifiers. The segments felt more genuine with how they were coming off. It didn't feel like they were trying to memorize a script. It felt like it was Seth Rollins talking to Damian Priest and so on.
Mhm.
So my kind of bow on top of this is that Vince could be anywhere in the world. He's going to make a change or two to the show because it's his baby at the end of the day. However, it's Triple H's show now. So he now has final say. Vince is only there to guide him when he doesn't know what to do because he's never been in that position. That's his role now.
Yeah, I'm fine with him like if all he does is kind of like rearrange things. I don't see a problem with that because if last night was kind of like a preview of that, then I can't complain, because I don't think anyone would have known that Vince did anything to the show last night unless dirt sheets were out there saying he was backstage. Like, I don't think anyone would know. My issue is, of course, is what we saw on the Raw after Mania, where he's cutting matches, adding matches, having like the half or more of the show, basically most of the show, 3/4 of the show, be backstage segments, promos in the ring, like cutting matches, because I think it was like 28 minutes of the entire 3 hours were matches.
Yeah, that was the one stat that stood out to us. I remember that.
Yeah, so like that is something that I would take issue with, because no, that's not why people are attending the shows live. That's not why people are tuning in to watch. So I don't care if he rearranges things and lets Triple H do what he does. Obviously, that I think is fine. I just hope that it stays that way, because I don't want to see a bunch of Raw after Manias, like that
No,
was
yeah.
hard. That was a hard watch. Like,